The late summer sun has made this a good year for Clacton, but before the deck chairs were packed away for the winter, a political bombshell. The sitting Tory MP, Douglas Carswell, announced he was joining UKIP and resigning as an MP. So this week, the people of Clacton go to the polls in a by-election.
I'm just so angry that that other guy has moved over to UKIP.
The way he left the Conservative Party, and I have no particular affiliations whatsoever, I thought it was underhanded.
We didn't know Carswell was going to jump the ship, go over to UKIP. We'll have to see what transpires.
Since its heyday, the number of tourists coming to Clacton has fallen dramatically. Jobs in the town are hard to come by.
In the last 3 months, I've probably applied for the best part of 40 jobs. 40 jobs, and you don't even get a reply back now.
The once busy hotels and guest houses have become an area known as bedsit land, with more temporary homes than almost anywhere else in the whole country. And yet the question of where to build new homes around Clacton is a thorny one, with many people believing the government is giving them no choice as to how many there should be.
The government who are forcing not just tendering district but all councils within the country to build houses far and beyond what that area thinks they need.
This is a constituency of contrasts. From Jaywick in the south, a community of former holiday homes where 62% of people are on benefits, to genteel Frinton in the north, where 1 in 3 people are pensioners. There, they're facing an uphill struggle to get a doctor's appointment.
I'd like to see the same doctor's name up every time I go in, and I'd like to think that, you know, Dr. Bloggs is going to be my doctor for the foreseeable future.
This is the 18th hole at Clacton Golf Club. Set up in 1892, it runs alongside the site of the former Butlins holiday camp. Today, we've transformed the 19th hole, the clubhouse, to give the people of Clacton their say in our Look East special debate. Hello, welcome to Clacton Golf Club, a chance for these people here to put their questions to these 5 candidates here, and all sorts of issues as well will be raised during the course of the evening, and we want you to join in the debate as well. You can take part in #BattleForClacton. So let us meet our panel tonight. First of all, Andy Graham from the Lib Dems.
Hello, good evening.
Chris Southall from the Green Party. Douglas Carswell from UKIP. Giles Watling from the Conservatives.
Good evening.
And Tim Young from Labour.
Good evening.
And so to our first question from Angela Churcher.
Do you think that constituents are better served by an MP who has the support of a large parliamentary party?
Giles Watling.
Well, I think constituents should be supported by an MP who has that support, because clearly they'll cover a lot of ground for him and keep him informed on what's going on the ground. But the most important thing is, I think, for Clacton, is to have a local man in the job. And I'm the local man. I live in Frinton-on-Sea. I've been here, I first came here in 1957, and I've lived here for 20 years. My children went to a local school. I use the local GPs. And I love this place. We have 36 miles of the finest coastline anywhere in the country, and that's something we should be exploiting. And I have a plan. I have a 7-point plan for this area.
That's wandered off the subject just a little bit, hasn't it? Do you think it is better if you're supported by a big party?
Well, as I said, yes. I mean, you have that backup. I think it's very good.
Douglas Carswell, you had it.
Angela, when I was the MP serving this area, I often found that the big party was actually a constraint, preventing me from taking the sort of steps that I needed to try and solve local problems. Let me give you an example. There's a real problem locally with the streetlight switch off. I would have liked to have done far more to take on Essex County Council, but because I was a Conservative and I had one hand tied behind my back by the whips, I found it quite difficult to attack the decision to switch off our streetlights with real grit and determination. Now, in the House of Commons, as a single MP in the past, I have sometimes had to take a stand on my own. and I've been able to persuade people, and I think I've been effective sometimes in persuading the rest of the House of Commons to do things, to get rid of a speaker who wasn't up to the job, persuading people to veto an increase in the EU budget. I was able to do that as an individual MP by persuading
So are you saying that it is better to be a solitary MP than to have this great backing behind you and to have influence of a large party as well?
I think if influence of a large party means that you are constrained by Westminster whips and you answer to Westminster whips and you cannot put local people first, then it is a positive disadvantage.
But you will be constrained, won't you, by not having any power base?
I will be free to approach the problems that we face with grit and determination. And the force of an argument means you can win it. And I think as a Member of Parliament for Clacton, I have on several occasions shown in the House of Commons that I've been able to effect change. I've been able to be an effective agent for change, not by toadying up to the party whips, not by sucking up to David Cameron, heaven forbid that I should ever have done that, but by being prepared to make the argument on behalf of local people and being prepared to force the issue and to win it.
OK, we'll come back and go round everybody in just a little while. Chris Southall.
Well, I think, answering the question, that it's more important to have the support of the people that you're trying to represent. Certainly the Green Party centrally is quite a small party, but we're growing at an amazing rate. We've put on nearly 50% of new members just this year. I ran a campaign. I mean, actually, I am the agent and the candidate and the person who raises finance and the person who organises the...
But that doesn't leave you time to do anything else, does it?
Well, I did sleep occasionally. So all of the money that we used was given by the people in small amounts just since the election's been called. Nothing came from the central party. And that feels great, because that feels to me as if I've got the support of everybody that I'm going to represent.
Andy Graham.
Well, I mean, it is important sometimes to have the support of the party in Westminster, but it shouldn't be a constraint.
Yeah, but your leader hasn't been here. He's not coming this week, is he? So what support is that?
Well, it's quite clear, really, that Labour and the Conservatives needed the support of their leader to be here because they're in so much trouble. I mean, quite frankly, it isn't about the leaders. What it is about, this election, is about the people of Clacton. And it is about what's happening on the doorstep and listening to their views, taking them on board and actually doing something for once about it. Now, that hasn't been done. The problems and issues that have been here in Clacton have suddenly not arrived just because of a resignation. In fact, Douglas Carswell was actually MP here, I believe, for 9.5 years, and he was a member of the Conservative Party then. What happened?
Does anybody here have a view on that? Lady over there with the yellow top on.
Can I just ask Douglas Carswell why he didn't go independent, if belonging to a party actually ties a hand behind your back?
I want to see change in the way that this country's politics is run. I could have stood as an independent. I may have won. I may not win. We don't know. We don't know what the result will be on Thursday. But in order to get the change that this country needs, in order to break free from the 2.5 party monopoly that has its grip on Westminster, I think we need to see a new party that allows choice and competition throughout the country in different constituencies. And I think there is a new party. It's called UKIP. And unlike the 2.5 parties that are controlled by a tiny clique sitting in London, UKIP is a democratic organisation that is run by its members.
Douglas. It's full of Tories.
Tim Young, come on, you're saying.
Well, I think it's great to have the support of party colleagues and councillors because they represent people. The people of Clacton know them and work through them. So I'm very happy to have support of the Labour Party here, and I think that is important. But, you know, it's also, you can bounce ideas off them. And if you've got some extreme views like Douglas has got on the NHS, for example, then if he was to discuss them with party colleagues, they'd say, Douglas, they're a bit bonkers. And you can put forward ideas, discuss them with people, come up with something rational that the people of Clacton, I think, will support.
Gentleman in the striped shirt in the front row there, yes.
Mr. Carswell, if you didn't want to run as an independent, then isn't that more of a national interest and not a local interest?
I think we need change in Clacton, and we need change in this country. The reason why I think people are disaffected with politics, the reason why 20 years ago 80% of people who would vote in general elections, now it's barely 60, is because people feel that they're not represented by the 2.5 party duopoly. Again and again and again, people stand for office with a rosette, a blue or a red rosette, and they are fed lines by a machine in London. They don't actually represent what local people want. That is the problem.
Just one question. Why didn't you wait until the general election, stand down and look for a seat rather than call a by-election?
I think the only honourable thing to do, when I came to the conclusion that the party leadership was not on the side of I somehow feel that those who said I should have waited for 8 months probably wouldn't be praising me now if I had decided to change parties and not face people. I need a mandate. I answer to local people.
No, you wanted a seat that you thought you could win at a by-election, didn't you?
Absolutely not. I don't think anyone can legitimately accuse me of taking the easy option. This is not an easy option. I'm taking a huge risk, and I could lose.
Just very quickly, yeah.
I mean, the one thing, though, above all else, is that you've wasted taxpayers' money. I mean, £250,000 could have gone into this local economy just because of your opportunism to take this moment in time rather than wait.
Andy, would you have been singing my praises if I had decided to remain as an MP?
I rather suspect the reason that Douglas didn't go independent but went with UKIP is because he wanted the backing of a party. Simple as that.
We need a new party. We need change.
Let's move on. Suzanne Glees, next question, please.
After David Cameron revealing proposals for GP surgeries to open 7 days a week, 8 to 8, do you support this, and how do you propose to staff surgeries to accommodate these hours, as we are already experiencing massive shortages in Frinton and Clacton and the whole of Tendring?
Andy Graham.
Well, one of the things that really GPs are now suffering from is enormous strain. There have been GPs leaving this area, and I heard one of my colleagues came in and announced yet another GP has actually resigned. Now, there are good GPs here, but they find the stress, the strain is just really driving them to resignation. Now, there needs to be an answer and a solution, and I believe it's a cross-party one. Let's not play party politics with GPs, please.
Yeah, you come back on that, yes.
What is the stress that GPs are under? I mean, their hours are shorter than they used to be. And, you know, it's not like they're in the front line facing Ebola fever, is it? You know, they stick to surgery hours.
Tim Young.
Yeah, I think the Labour Party has put the NHS right at the forefront of the political agenda, because £2.5 billion we've said we'll put into the NHS to recruit 8,000 more GPs, 20,000 more.
Where are you going to get them from?
We're going to train them. That's part of what you use the money for, Stuart. You put the money in, then you recruit the GPs.
We'll come to you in a second.
But hang on. You're privatising the NHS. Douglas wants to privatise the NHS and go in farther and charge people to see their doctor.
Absolutely not true.
Well, you wrote it in your book, Douglas.
You're misquoting. You're selectively misquoting.
I've got the quote.
You're selectively misquoting.
Okay, selectively misquote in a second.
Yes. What has happened?
No, hang on, Douglas Carswell.
Susan, can I ask, your GP, is it the Caradoc you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. The Caradoc surgery has real problems, and the fundamental problem at the Caradoc is because there has been for a long time one GP trying to serve 6,000 patients. She's a brilliant GP, but no GP can actually manage to cope with that sort of pressure. Now, I tried to act on behalf of local patients, and I took a delegation of GPs down to meet with Jeremy Hunt. And in fairness to Jeremy Hunt, some improvements were made. But the fundamental problem is that you can't recruit what isn't there. There aren't enough doctors in this country, and it is the government that has failed to train more.
Okay, you wanted to misquote.
This is with Douglas's book, The Plan 12 Months to Renew Britain. If someone chose to see their GP, they would pay whatever rate they and the GP agreed. If they wish to see a GP after hours, they could do so. There might be a higher fee, but that would be between them and the GP.
Your book has got it wrong, has it?
Can I respond?
No, your book has got it wrong.
David Cameron has promised...
Just a moment, Mr Watling,
Before this becomes 4 against 1, can I just respond?
I don't think it is 4 against 1. We're asking you a question.
The book that I wrote talks about changing the way that money is allocated. We need to make sure that money, taxpayer money, public money, follows the patient. That is the answer to the problem.
So nobody, you are saying...
My book is not talking about people using their private money. It's about making sure that public money follows the patient. We use the same system in our education.
We've got lots of questions. We'll come back to everybody on the panel. Gentlemen here.
Can you honestly say, I mean, you say there's one GP at Caradoc surgery. There's 5. There happen to be one permanent one for locums. And what the problem is that NHS England are still running surgeries the way they were run 60 years ago. What you need now is permanent doctors who are under contract. But at the moment, we either have people who have to put a lot of money into the surgery, or people who are there for a week.
Can I just bring in Dr. Brian Balmer, who's the Chief Executive of North and South Essex Local Medical Committees, which represents GPs. They do regular surveys. What's the outcome of your latest survey?
We just surveyed the practices in this area. 16 out of 19 responded, which is close to 90% of the population. This area has 9 current GP vacancies, which would equate to, if you like, 18,000 people not having a GP in this area. In the next door area, Colchester, the vacancies still bad, but 4.
So why is there such a shortage here? Did you find that out?
There's a number of reasons. One of it is simple geography. This is a great area, but people from outside looking at it say it's the furthest area from London, etc. That's one of the reasons. We're struggling to retain GPs. The demand is such, and the demand for services is such, that even the GPs we are training now, many of them are not choosing to go into full-time practice.
Not coming to live here and don't want to be here. That's a problem. Chris Southall, I'll come to you. Yeah.
Can I suggest another reason? I think the people of Clacton, when they go to their dentists or their GPs, will often find someone who wasn't born in this country. And that is because we don't have enough GPs that have been trained in this country at the moment, and I believe that it takes quite a long time to train a GP. Now, the publicity that surrounds this area is mostly about anti-immigration, and that is thanks to the UKIP publicity. So if you were a GP from another country, would you want to come and live here? I don't think I would.
Well, Giles Watling. Giles Watling.
The Conservative Party brought 800 doctors into the east of England during the life of this Parliament. Now, I see it as my duty as a local man, and the Caradoc surgery is my surgery, and I would like to see the same doctor every time I go back, particularly if I would become unfortunate enough to have some chronic illness and I need to see the same person. I see it as my duty to fight for one of those GPs
Giles,
to come
David
to my surgery, and I want, I'm doing this.
£3 billion on a top-down reorganisation of
David Cameron
that was totally unnecessary.
David Cameron
that £3 billion could have been put into GPs.
Can I just say to both of you, nobody can hear what you're saying, so finish what you're saying and then come in with your
David
point.
Cameron protected the NHS over the last 5 years, and he guarantees to do it over the next 5 years. That's what he said, and that's what he will do. We've got, as I say, 800 more, and we've just got to fight locally to get them into our surgeries so that we see the same man again and again, or woman.
The gentleman in the front row here with a question.
I'd like to ask, particularly the Conservative candidate, if Mr Cameron is such a defender of the NHS, why has it been recently announced that they plan to privatise back-office health services in Clacton, leading to the possible loss of 50 jobs and a worse service for the public?
It's all to do with efficiencies. There have been difficult decisions that have had to be made, and we need to keep the front-line thing going as best we can. I've had to, when I had the portfolio for benefits and revenues, I had to find £4 million in a year. I did that without cutting one front-line service. And I think we can do that on a broad
basis. In order to try to fix the problem, I sat down with local GPs and the local clinical commissioning group, and they came up with a great scheme. The idea was to attract more GPs by offering a bonus for GPs who came here, worked here, and stayed here for 2 years. And that was a step forward. It went some way.
How many did you get?
You can't recruit what isn't there. There is, as the good doctor has just said, a shortage of 9 GPs still, despite offering a £10,000 bonus for GPs
So
to
why
come
do
here.
you think it is? You think this is a good place? Why do you think the doctors don't want to come? Is
I
it
think
the elderly population?
The fundamental problem is that unaccountable officials in London have failed to recruit enough GPs nationally, and we are paying the price for it.
And that would have gone back how many years?
At least 4, possibly longer.
Yes. While you were the local MP?
I tried to do something about it. I tried
and
to
failed.
And one of the reasons why I changed parties is because...
There's a question from the lady in the back row over here. Yeah?
The fundamental problem with our healthcare system is the effect of the Health and Social Care Act. GPs, midwives, nurses are all demoralised. They all feel undervalued. We've got midwives here who've been downgraded from a band 7 to a band 6. People are leaving. People who've been trained are leaving. £3 billion on a top-down reorganisation that RECOG, that the RMC, that Royal College of Nurses all said we didn't need and we shouldn't have. Will these people, if they are elected, vote to repeal the Health and Social Care Act?
Andy Graham. I mean, Lib Dems are part of the coalition.
Well, I know they are. But one of the things is there's very clearly some differences between the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats. And it's really very, very clear that the welfare cuts which the Conservatives are actually promising to kind of entice the right wing of their party is actually just going to create the problem even worse. What we need is, and I think this is a very British thing...
Can you answer the question?
I'm going to answer it. The answer is yes, but I wanted to colour it because the whole point of the NHS is that it is part of our culture.
Yes.
We have to protect it, we have to support it, we have to put investment into it where appropriate.
Have the Lib Dems in coalition failed to protect it, then?
No, they haven't, because they have streamlined inefficiencies that existed, and now we're at the point where we have to sustain the National Health Service.
So why is the government negotiating with other countries to allow easier privatisation of the NHS?
Well, that is certainly not a Lib Dem policy. That may well be a...
It's your government that's doing this.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to ask you...
I would vote to repeal the Health and Social Care Act, of course. We've got someone here who voted for it, we've got another party here who voted for it, and another party here who voted for it. I'm not sure the Greens probably would vote to repeal the Health and Social Care Act.
Just one thought from each of you on this. Just one thought. Short. Start here with the Greens. One thought on what we should do about the shortage of GPs.
Well, it's a really difficult problem. I mean, obviously, we've got to train more from our own country, but somehow we've got to make the people who we're coming from other countries, and a lot of GPs are coming into this country from other countries, you've got to make them feel welcome.
Giles Watling?
So how are we going to do that with a party which is anti-immigrant?
I simply go back to the fact that we created 800 more doctors in the east of England over the life of this Parliament. We need to do more, and we mustn't sit on our laurels. And to that end, I brought Dr. Dan Poulter down here, the Health Minister, and we talked about GPs and getting them into our surgeries.
Short answer.
And we talked about looking after things like our maternity services. We marched, Conservative councillors marched, and got the maternity service up and running and working.
You were
I was on that march. I was on that march.
Lots of other people.
No privatisation. No more top-down restructuring. No charging to see your GP. What we need is the money to follow the patient. What we need is the money to follow the patient. Patient power.
I think it's investment in the NHS. We have to keep that going. Regarding GPs, the encouragement, the bonus scheme that the government actually did introduce actually didn't work, but we must not let go of it. It needs to actually be continued, and a cross-party plan for the regions where this is a major problem. It's not all over the United Kingdom. It is in some regions.
Thank you both.
I haven't had my turn.
Thank you all of you. Go on then, very quickly.
We've said where the money would come from to train the GPs that we need. We're also working with the Royal College of GPs to put our health service back together, and that's the way to do it.
Right. You are not the only candidates standing in this election, this by-election. Let's hear from the other three.
I think the concern about the healthcare budget in particular, it's very difficult at a time of financial constraint to say they're going to have to cut services further. I think the importance of the demographics here, the local population, is so important. The issue was supposed to be immigration, and actually here it isn't. The issue is definitely healthcare spending.
We've known Clacton for many, many years, and Clacton's always been a very, very famous place. But walking around now and people telling me Clacton's not up to scratch like it used to be, well, why not? I mean, the Looney Party envisaged the whole of Clacton, Walton, Frinton being a Disneyland. Straight away it's a Disneyland. Everybody's working, all the hotels are full, everybody's happy and singing and dancing in the streets.
I believe younger people need to have better education in sex and relationship, and also for people with disabilities as well. One of the things, and one of the key issues when it comes to sex and relationship education is people, it's a double-edged sword unfortunately, because people don't want to be talking too much about it in case they think that they're pushing children towards that, but it's not pushing them towards it, it's educating them to give them the knowledge and understanding to be able to go forward.
Those are the other candidates. Let's have our next question now from Mitchell Higgin.
What will you do to stop the rot of rising unemployment for people in and below my age group?
Let's start, shall we, with Tim Young.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question because it's coming up time and time again on the doorstep, the lack of jobs in Clacton, and the unemployment is higher here than the national average. Wages are much lower than the national average. We're putting forward a future jobs guarantee that would guarantee every young person work experience that would lead to a job or training in that. And I think that is very important, because what is happening at the moment is young people are leaving Clacton to go to other areas to find work. We need them to stay in Clacton. We need to incentivise employers to come here so that we will have jobs. It was a big blow when Butlins left, as referred to in the report, because that was a major employer in Clacton. We need to attract major employers back to Clacton,
hang on.
and they've been lost over the last 10 years.
Didn't the Labour Party, weren't the Labour Party in power all through the start of the noughties, and we still have the problem? So what did they do, the government, about it?
We put a lot of investment into Clacton.
Well, it hasn't worked, has it?
Well, it hasn't worked over the last 4 years, because all that's been
didn't work before that, did it?
It did work. No, it did work. When Ivan Henderson was the MP, he did a great deal for Clacton, and he was a well-respected MP.
He may have been well-respected,
and he got Sure Start centres opened, we got a new school opened, and there were jobs here. And but for over the last 4 years, it's been choked off. There's been no investment in young persons' employment. That's why it's so high. We need to get people back to work so that people like that young man who just asked the question can find jobs and stay in Clacton, so we keep the skills and employment in this area.
There's a man in the middle there with his hand up.
I taught in Clacton here for nearly 30 years. This is a generational issue. Mm-hmm. This is a deeply seated issue that we need to solve.
So it goes back before the last 4 years, you're saying?
Absolutely. Nobody's ever got this right. We need proper investment here. Proper investment, not the sort of few quid here, few quid there that we've had.
And do you think we had it when Labour were in power? OK. Chris Southall.
Well, the first thing I've got to say is that the current government have announced that they're cutting job seekers' allowance for young people and their housing benefit. So how on earth is anybody who's 21 and under going to be able to go out and look for a job in those circumstances?
There are no jobs in the first place.
Well, that's the first thing. And then
you can't seek something that's not there.
Yeah, and then the second thing is that there aren't the jobs there. But if you look around, if you look around the town,
that's the first thing.
Well, he
said you've got to have the jobs before people will go and look for them.
It's a chicken and egg situation.
Which is the chicken and which is the egg?
Well, exactly.
Which is the chicken and which is the egg?
Well, I think that the young people need support while they're looking for jobs, or they're never even going to go and look.
Yeah, but if the job isn't there, there is no point in going to
That's why they won't look. That's why there is such depression about looking.
Yes.
Because there is no economic investment.
So if you look around Clacton, do you think that there are no jobs that needed to be done? I mean, when I walk around Clacton, it hits me in the face. All of the things, all the old people that need more visits, the people the town that needs
homes that need to be built.
Douglas Carswell. Need to be built and insulated.
Douglas Carswell. Mitchell, many of the people that you're talking about, young people looking for work who can't find it, they're people I know by name. I've met them at local jobs fairs where I've gone along to provide support. They're people who I've taken on for work experience, people who I've even helped try and put together a CV. I know how difficult it is. And there are 4 things I think we need to try and change, and 4 things I will try and change. The first is we need more apprenticeships locally. Now, I grant you, ministers of all 3 parties have done a good job in increasing the number of apprenticeships, but not locally. We need them locally. More apprenticeships in this town helping young people.
Can I just stop you there? Can I just ask you one question? We had somebody on Look East last week who said that actually, if somebody goes off and gets an apprenticeship, the family loses benefit, and so they encourage them not to go and look for that job. So how do you get over that?
The rules are written in London by people who don't understand. They don't understand what it is like when you're a family who's under pressure and you're trying to encourage a son or a daughter to take up an apprenticeship, and you risk being worse off. It's ridiculous. I think another thing we need to do is we need to cheer local schools like Tendring Enterprise Studio School. They are a new school, they're different, and they're offering young people opportunities that simply didn't exist before. I think we need to get behind them, and I think we need to champion them. Then I think there are 2 further things.
One more, then.
Local business rates. Okay. I think Clacton started to decline as a retail resort when John Major in 1990 nationalised the business rates. We need to make sure our local council controls the business rate. If they did that, they could take action and restore commerce and retail.
Got a lady in the front row here.
I'm actually from Tendring Technology College, and I haven't seen any support. I'm in upper 6th, and what support are you talking about? Because I haven't seen any, and I'm a student.
I think Douglas Carswell, there is support. She says there isn't.
Well, if you come to a jobs fair, I will be there. If you would like a career advice and help in completing a CV, I will do that. You know, I have visited Tendring Technology College, and it's an excellent school. It's doing excellent things, and I'm 100% behind your school and the work.
Giles Watling, she is saying that actually she's shaking her head now. She's saying there is no help there.
Well, I quite agree, actually, on one occasion on this with Douglas, in as much that that's what your MP is for, is to get in touch with, and he will get down and do some work and help you with doing your job applications. I have twin daughters who are unemployed in this area, and I'm trying to find them work. Look, we have had 3,500 more jobs created in this constituency since the election in 2010. Now, we're not going to sit on our laurels. There's more to be done. But it shouldn't be as part of the district council, I've managed to bring in, with my fellow councillors, £50 million into this district alone. We've got massive sea defences, certainly, but we're going to be putting £10 million into Jaywick. We're building homes there for local people. There's massive development going on. There will be jobs. But jobs will come on the back of this.
Unemployment here is 2 percentage points higher than it is across the rest of the region.
As I said,
so that money is going in, but
I've said we've created 3,500 jobs. We mustn't sit on our laurels.
What happens,
Andy Graham?
You know, it's very good to talk about platitudes and to actually throw things around. The point is where are the jobs? And who is going to help to provide the infrastructure? Because it's no good talking about housing, for goodness sake, when there are no roads and infrastructure to actually support it.
3 days ago.
It's just nonsense.
3 days ago.
And the answer is that we need to actually, in Westminster, they need to recognise that this region needs support and investment on a scale.
He's saying you've had 50 million.
To
answer the young woman's point.
Hang on, let him finish. Yeah.
I'm talking about the long term, because everyone here has talked about this has gone on for years and years.
Generation.
No one's addressing their problem.
3 days ago, big
solutions, Giles, for
3 days ago.
problems that will make a difference
3 days
to these
ago,
people.
I visited Nico, which is a manufacturer of hinges and so forth for windows worldwide. And it's in Clacton, and it has 130 people on the staff, and it's expanding. It's a good news story. And George Osborne and I met 3 apprentices there who are loving it. Actually, we met 5 apprentices there who are loving it, and in various stages of their apprenticeship. One in their first year, one in their final year. And it's not
really be
dragging
the job.
them back.
Well done if you do it. Of the local MP to help you write your CV and put those processes in. They used to be in. There was a service called Connections, which has got there was a point between leaving school and getting into a job. The government cut that. I presume Douglas probably voted for it. And that was where it was. And you've lost that support now because they seem to be cutting everything that helps young people get into jobs.
Douglas Carswell, did you vote for it?
Yes, I
probably,
did.
yeah.
Let's move on to another question. Lawrence Sewell.
We seem to be building quite a few houses locally, but who are they meant for? Because we've heard stories that the houses are going to people from out of the area.
Hang on. Douglas Carswell.
It's a difficult balancing act between the need for more houses, which we need, and respecting the views of local residents who don't want overdevelopment. I thought that the idea of localism, which we promised, was that the local council would make that difficult decision. And I think Tendring District Council, I see Mick in the front row, they made a brilliant plan that would balance those two interests. And I supported it, and there was cross-party support from it. Unfortunately, a government official 2 months ago announced that we're going to have an extra 12,000 new homes. That's hundreds of new houses for Wheeley, hundreds of new houses for St Osoph, hundreds of new houses in Walton. I think that's wrong. I think it should be a local decision made by the local district council. Now, those 12,000 new houses are not going to be for local people. It is to accommodate London overspill. That is the problem.
They are going to be for local people.
All right, I'll tell you what, let's bring in Mike Page, who's the leader of Tendring Council. Are they going to be for local people?
Yes, they are. They are going to be for local people. What we first of all tried to do, we tried to put 6% across the whole of the district. What we realised from doing that, and we went to the inspector, and the inspector said to us, because of the way you're doing it, you're not actually putting the infrastructure in. You know, we need the schools putting in, we're making sure that they're there, the jobs are put in, and everything else. So we had to change it when they give us the figure now, which is 12,000 homes across the district.
Do you know how many homes you build every year in this?
We roughly build now
250.
150.
Yeah. 250. Do you know how long it would take you to build 12,000 houses?
We're going to have to build 600 homes
at that
a year.
rate, it would take you 48 years.
Yeah, but it's a 15-year plan, don't forget.
Okay.
What we're doing now,
so
it's not just a 5-year plan, it's a 15-year plan.
How many of them are affordable homes?
I mean, It's all very well you taking your orders from the planning inspector, but what about the voters who voted in order that there should be some respect for
yeah, but
those
coming back to you,
overdevelopment?
Douglas, you know that we go out to consultation now.
And you ignored what people said. I mean, local people did not build 12,000 new houses.
Let me bring in Tim Young.
Well, they did not want 12,000 more homes.
You've been representing us, and you have let us down, really.
Well, I think we were going to have localism. I thought we were going to allow local people and locally elected councillors to decide these things, rather than a remote planning inspector.
OK, Tim Young.
I'm chair of a local housing association, so I know how important the need for housing is. It would be local homes for local families, because what people are saying to me is we need, where are our kids going to live? Where are our grandchildren going to live? And that's why we need the homes in tendering. It needs to be properly planned, it needs to be properly consulted upon, and that's what local councils should do. But tendering's original plan just didn't work out at all. It wasn't sound, nobody was ever going to agree with it. And
apart from the voters.
No, they didn't agree with it, Douglas, because they're the same people who are saying, where are my children and where are my grandchildren going to live? And you can't have it both ways. And if you build more affordable homes, that's jobs in the construction industry and the related industries, so you get, it's a virtuous circle.
You've got high unemployment, you've got queues to go and see a doctor, you've got lower than average wages. Why do you think that people are going to want to come and live here?
You don't think house building addresses all that? Because I do, and affordable homes for local people is what the people of Clacton need. And I grew up here. I was the only one on this panel.
We've got a Labour Conservative.
And that's what we need for Clacton.
I agree absolutely with Tim on this. Douglas is doing typical UKIP scare tactics, saying we're going to be importing these people. No, absolutely not. I've been on this council since 2007, and we want to take control of this house building. Yes, we're going to have 12,000 more homes, and yes, we need them. There are homeless people who need this, people who need these homes. And one of the big projects, as I mentioned before, is that's the point. You bring the infrastructure with you. We go back to my plan on creating jobs.
Mr. Watling, if you can't bring the jobs here at the moment,
exactly. Oh, right. Well, you keep business rates low.
12,000 extra homes because a government planning inspector says we have to have them. Where's the local democracy?
Listen, we live in one of the most beautiful spots in Essex. We've got this 36 miles of gorgeous coastline.
Andy Graham. Let's bring Andy Graham.
We need to bring people here to exploit our tourism.
Andy Graham. But there's one thing that we do have to recognise, and I think everyone around here would affordable housing. There is not enough affordable housing.
Absolutely.
And that is number one. That is a priority, because there's a need. Let's not actually put loads of houses where there is no need. It's because there's a need. It's affordable. Now, some of the planning that has gone on in this whole area is a bit piecemeal. And you get, and I have seen, and I've spoken to people, where there has been developments where roads aren't adopted, street lighting isn't there. It's not a question of them being turned off. They weren't there in the first place.
Andy, Chris Southall, I need to bring Chris Southall in.
Joined up thinking on planning.
Why can't we build on some of the brownfield sites, like the ones in Oxford Road, for instance? I mean, do we really need another supermarket? The Co-op site, which is a big site, is earmarked for another supermarket. Heaven knows we've got enough. And we could build houses there. There was another site further down Oxford Road where we could have built houses again. And the same things happened in the middle of town. I mean, talk about jobs. The Audi that was built on the site there replaced an open market where lots of people had livings, you know, maybe little individual livings.
I've got a lady here wants to say something very quickly.
Is Mr. Carswell not a bit contradictory, saying he wants younger people to stay here as opposed to go away and work? I work at Clacton County High School. We've got more children than ever going to university, more children than ever achieving highly.
What's your question?
And why will they come back here and live if there's nowhere to live, if you're not willing to build a
There would be somewhere to live if the local council balanced the needs for new homes with concerns about overdevelopment. That's why the original plan for 4,000 houses was good. I think it balanced that need very well. Having 12,000 additional houses, thousands of extra homes for Holland-on-Sea, Wheeley, St Osyth. I think that's wrong. I think...
OK. Just very quickly. Which of you is in favour of all of these new houses? All of you?
I'm in favour.
Yeah, I'm in favour.
Yes.
I'm not. You're not. And just very quickly on the audience, which of you is in favour of all these new houses?
All the 12 or the 4?
The 12,000. Good.
If you're against the 12,000
I think that was 4 people in favour of building all of those houses. Thank you very much for joining in with our debate. Oh, 6, sorry, so maybe we're over there. Thank you very much to our panel, ladies and gentlemen, and to you for your questions. Don't forget, you can join in the debate. Hashtag Battle for Clacton on Twitter. My thanks to our panel this evening. Thank you very much indeed. And, of course, to our audience, thank you for your questions. From all of us in Clacton, though, good night.
It was interesting to see the candidates and hear them face to face, giving their opinions on issues.
I thought they were a bit rowdy at times, but that's to be expected.
I'm really, really pleased. I think Clacton's had a really bad rap the last few weeks with the whole immigration issues. Everything that's going on is to do with immigration, and it was nice that that wasn't the focus. And it was local issues that were discussed.